What if Maxie's comeback isn't about exposing Cassius, but about surviving the story he writes about her? What if Maxie Jones wakes up from her coma, looks straight at the man wearing Nathan West's shadow, and realizes the nightmare is not that Cassius Phazon is lying? What if the real nightmare is that Cassius already knows how to make everyone else believe Maxie is the lie? That to me is where this story could become genuinely disturbing. Not in a cheap way, not in a loud cartoon villain kind of way. I mean the kind of disturbing that sneaks up on you where one character says something that sounds caring, almost gentle, and suddenly you realize it is not care at all. It is control. It is a trap dressed up as concern. And if General Hospital is looking for a way to bring Maxie back into the Cassius Phazon story without making her return feel predictable, this could be the angle. I am not saying this is what GH will do. I am not claiming this is a spoiler. I am only looking at the pieces on the board and thinking, okay, if Maxie is going to matter to this story, and she should matter, because Nathan was not just a name in her past, then her return has to hurt. It has to mean something. It has to cut straight into memory, grief, motherhood, identity, and that very soap opera question, we have seen 100 different ways, but still love when it is done right. What happens when the person telling the truth is the one everybody is trained to doubt? Because I do not think Cassius should simply fear Maxie. That is too simple. Any fake Nathan, any secret twin, any Phazon-connected imposter would obviously have a problem if Maxie starts noticing cracks in the performance. But a smarter Cassius would not just try to silence her. A smarter Cassius would use her. That is the twisted part. He would turn Maxie's reaction into his best defense. He would make her grief look like confusion. He would make her instincts look like instability. He would make her fear for James look like overreaction. And the more Maxie tries to explain that something is wrong, the more Cassius calmly stands there acting like the reasonable one in the room. That is a soap opera nightmare. And honestly, I think it could work. Now, there's a very sensitive real-world backdrop here, so I want to be careful with the wording. Kirsten Storms has had public attention around personal matters, including posts about possible digital interference and separate legal headlines involving Brandon Barash. I do not think the show should copy anyone's private life directly, and I do not think viewers should treat real pain like plot material. That would be ugly. But in a fictional sense, GH could take a broad motif, a woman saying something is wrong, saying she is being watched, saying her digital life has been touched, and then being doubted and transform it into a story where Maxie is gaslighted after waking from a coma. That framing matters. Not Maxie is unstable. Not Maxie is imagining things. Not some cruel one-to-one imitation of real life. The story would be, Maxie is right, but Cassius understands that truth does not matter if he can destroy the person speaking it. And that is where I would begin. Maxie wakes up with the strange, heavy feeling that life continued without her, and everyone around her is trying to be gentle, which almost makes it worse. Felicia is careful. Spinelli is emotional, but trying not to overwhelm her. James is older in ways she was not there to see. Port Charles has rearranged itself while she was trapped inside silence. And then there is Cassius, standing too close to Nathan's memory, carrying too many details, saying things that should comfort her but somehow make her skin go cold. At first, Maxie would probably try to correct herself. That feels true to me. She would not immediately run around shouting that everyone is lying. She has been through too much. She knows people will watch every reaction she has, so maybe she smiles when she does not want to smile. Maybe she lets Cassius speak. Maybe she studies him from across the room and tells herself, do not jump, do not spiral, breathe first. But Maxie is Maxie. Her instincts are messy, emotional, sometimes inconvenient, but they are not stupid. And I think what unsettles her would not be that Cassius gets things wrong. It would be that he gets too many things right. That is more frightening. A clumsy imposter is easy to catch. A dangerous imposter knows the details. Cassius might remember the names, the dates, the pain points, the little references that make everyone else soften. He might know how Nathan talked about James. He might know what words make Felicia tear up. He might know the kind of silence that makes Maxie pause. But then, every now and then, something is off. Not big, not dramatic enough to throw in someone's face. Just off. He uses a memory like a tool instead of feeling it. He repeats an intimate detail a little too perfectly. He looks at James as if he is studying the child's reaction instead of loving him. He says Nathan's name like it belongs to him, but Maxie hears the difference. And I would love that, because it makes Maxie's evidence almost impossible to explain. How do you prove someone is missing the emotional temperature of a memory? How do you prove a man is performing grief when everyone else wants so badly to believe the performance? You cannot put that into a lab report. Cassius knows this, so he does not fight Maxie with facts. He fights her with atmosphere. The first time Maxie questions him in front of other people, he does not snap, he does not threaten, he lowers his voice, he looks wounded. He says something like, "I understand why this is difficult for her. She woke up to a world that does not make sense yet." And that line would be poison, because everyone in the room can agree with it. It sounds compassionate, it sounds patient, it sounds like the kind of thing a decent person would say, but underneath it he has already planted the seed. Maxie's perception cannot be trusted yet. Then the digital interference begins. Not a huge hack with flashing screens and dramatic music. Please, no. Something quieter. Soap opera, yes, but intimate. Maxie opens her phone and sees a message thread slightly altered. A photo she knows she saved is missing. A voice memo she recorded after waking up is gone. An email to Spinelli never sent, even though she remembers pressing send. A calendar entry appears for an appointment she never made. Her hospital discharge notes include language that feels wrong, as if someone is carefully building a paper trail that says Maxie is confused, forgetful, emotionally reactive. And when she says this out loud, Cassius lets her. That is the sinister part. He does not stop her from speaking. He wants her to speak before she has proof. Because the more she says, the more frightened she sounds. The more frightened she sounds, the easier it becomes for everyone to worry about her instead of listening to her. Spinelli, of course, would become the emotional pressure point. Maxie would go to him because if anyone can find the ghost in the machine, it is Spinelli. He would want to believe her. I do not question that. His heart would believe her before his computer does. But then he checks the devices, the accounts, the backups, the cloud logs, all of it, and at first he finds nothing solid. Not because Maxie is wrong, because Cassius, or whoever is behind him, is not using a normal hack. The manipulation might be coming through a medical system, an old WSB archive, a sealed file, something connected to Faison's network. Something that leaves just enough reality for Maxie to feel it, but not enough proof for Spinelli to hand Anna. That is a very soap opera kind of horror. The evidence exists, but it is always one step out of reach. And meanwhile, Cassius keeps building his version of Maxie. Not the real Maxie. His Maxie. His Maxie is fragile. His Maxie is overwhelmed. His Maxie is still half lost in the coma. His Maxie is grieving Nathan so badly that she cannot accept what is in front of her. His Maxie loves her children, yes, of course. He would always say that part, because it makes him sound fair. But his Maxie may need rest. His Maxie may need supervision. His Maxie may need people to make decisions around her until she is herself again. I hate that sentence. Until she is herself again. It sounds loving, and it is actually a cage. And then comes the public moment. Every soap story like this needs one. Not because it is subtle, but because public humiliation is one of the oldest soap weapons in the book. A nurse's ball, a charity event, a memorial gathering for Nathan, maybe something connected to James, something emotional enough that everyone is already raw. Maxie sees Cassius with James, and something about the moment is wrong. Maybe Cassius says a phrase Nathan used to say, but he says it to manipulate James instead of comfort him. Maybe James pulls away and Cassius tightens his hand just a little. Not enough for anyone else to call it dangerous. Enough for Maxie to move. She steps in. Too fast, maybe. Too urgently. She tells James to come with her. People turn. Cassius releases the child instantly because he knows the room is watching. Maxie looks like the storm. Cassius looks like the shelter. And there it is. The entire trap closes. Felicia is scared for her daughter. Spinelli is scared because he cannot prove she is wrong but cannot prove she is right. Anna watches Cassius, not convinced, but still missing the final piece. And Cassius says almost nothing. He does not need to. The room is doing the work for him. That is when I think Maxie would hit her lowest point, not because she believes Cassius, she does not, but because she realizes the truth by itself is useless if the villain controls the frame around it. So Maxie changes tactics. This is the part that has to happen for me, because I do not want a story where Maxie is only a victim. Maxie can be chaotic. Maxie can be emotional. Maxie can make terrible decisions and then somehow talk her way into making another one before the first one is fixed. But she is also clever in a way people underestimate. She understands people. She understands image. She understands how a room feels before anyone says the quiet part out loud. So she stops trying to prove Cassius is fake through files. She stops chasing missing messages. She stops begging people to believe the feeling in her gut. Instead, she gives Cassius a story, a false one. A tiny, beautiful, heartbreaking memory about Nathan that never happened. She chooses something intimate enough that Cassius will not be able to resist using it later. Maybe she tells him Nathan once promised her something under his breath during a storm. Maybe she mentions a song Nathan supposedly hated but secretly loved. Maybe she invents a phrase Nathan never said, something so specific it could only come from Maxie. And Cassius, because he is arrogant, takes it. He stores it. He thinks Maxie has given him another key to her grief. Then, days later, when he needs to pull her back under, he repeats it softly, tenderly, in that almost Nathan voice. And Maxie finally has him. Not with a fingerprint, not with a medical file, not with a security feed, with a lie she created. That is the delicious soap opera reversal. Cassius spends weeks making Maxie look unreliable, and Maxie beats him by using his own hunger for credibility against him. He is so desperate to be believed as Nathan's shadow that he recites a memory that never existed. I can see that scene so clearly. Maxie goes still. Not dramatic, not screaming, just still. Cassius thinks he has reached her. He thinks the line worked. Then she looks at him and says, slowly, maybe even sadly, Nathan never said that. Silence. That is the moment the room changes. Because Maxie does not have to yell anymore. She does not have to convince everyone with volume. She has created a test only the real Nathan could pass, and Cassius failed because he never understood the difference between information and intimacy. That is the heart of the story for me. Cassius may have studied Maxie's life. He may have accessed records, stolen messages, copied patterns, learned names, weaponized old grief. But he cannot manufacture the truth of having lived those moments. And he cannot fully understand that Maxie's love for Nathan was never just about the big romantic history. It was about the tiny things, the private things, the unrecorded things, the things no file could hold. From there, the story could open into a bigger GH mystery. Who fed Cassius the information? Was it Sidwell? Was it a hidden Phazon archive? Was there someone inside the hospital? Was Maxie's coma not just a way to remove her from the board, but a way to study her while she could not fight back? That is dark. Maybe too dark. But soaps go dark all the time. And when they do it with emotional stakes, it works. The important thing is that Maxie's victory should not erase what happened to her. She should not just smile and say, well, I was right, and move on. No, the damage would matter. She would have to rebuild trust with people who doubted her. Spinelli would have to sit with the fact that love was not enough when proof was missing. Felicia would have to face the pain of trying to protect her daughter and accidentally helping isolate her. Anna would have to admit Cassius understood the system well enough to weaponize concern. And Cassius? He would realize Maxie is no longer just a loose end. She is the one person he should have feared from the beginning. If Kirsten Storms can only return in limited appearances, this story still works. Actually, it might work better in some ways. Maxie could appear in intense bursts, each one moving the story forward. A hospital scene, a family scene, a strange digital clue, the public event, the false memory trap. Then maybe she steps away again, not because she is being written out emotionally, but because she is protecting James while the rest of Port Charles follows the trail she created. And if Kirsten returns more fully, then this becomes a major Maxie comeback arc, not a simple reunion, not just tears over Nathan. Not just Cassius is exposed and everyone moves on. This would be Maxie reclaiming her own story after someone tried to rewrite it. That is why I like this direction. It uses classic soap opera DNA, secret identity, gaslighting, a public scene, missing records, a dangerous man with a familiar face, a mother protecting her child, and a final emotional trap. But the center is personal. It is not about Cassius being clever. It is about Maxie refusing to let him define her reality. And if GH ever goes anywhere close to this, I would want the final message to be very clear. Maxie was not too emotional to see the truth. Her emotion was the reason she saw it first. Because grief remembers, love remembers, a mother remembers. And no matter how many files Cassius steals, no matter how many lines he memorizes, no matter how carefully he plays the wounded ghost of Nathan West, he cannot become the man Maxie loved by studying her pain. He can copy the story, but he cannot survive the parts that were never written down